So, just at the top of the video, real fast, the intention here is to provide some commentary, some analysis on the defuse layouts in the kind of top 10 of the Mapcore Big Adventures contest here. Some background, I'm a semi-frequent Mapcore Hub player, and my friends and I played through and won both of the North American Mapcore tournaments for these maps, playing Canopy, Flick, Golden, Jura, and Warden. We did not get the chance to play Stronghold, Palacio, or Grail in the tournament, but we did play all the maps named, and we did do theory craft ahead of the tournament for every defuse map in case we would have to play it. All right, so starting with Canopy, this is, I'd say, one of the more standard Clover designs on the kind of top 10 finalist pool. That being said, there are some definite uniqueness to this layout. I think most of the uniqueness really pertains to the A side of the map. So you've got this A long area that connects very standardly from T spawn, and this is where it can kind of get a little bit more unique in that, and you'll see this actually later on Flick as well. There's an option to kind of shortcut your way up to the A bomb site by jumping, or you can take more of a standard wraparound CT and then get into the bomb site this way. Now, what differentiates it from Flick is that the second entrance to the A bomb site for T's doesn't really require any mid control. CTs, we'll talk about this later, have really, honestly, not great timings into the mid fight, and therefore you can kind of just ignore mid, run up, and if you wanted to very kind of quickly set up a split onto the A bomb site, you would really only have to deal with the start of round A bomb site players and a fast mid rotate. And that is, I mean, it's definitely a unique aspect of the map. For that reason, I think a lot of times you're playing two towards this A bomb site, but I'll move on to mid. This is, nothing really reinventing the wheel here for mid. I do like how, sloped up this kind of mid tower is. Typically in these kind of more maybe standard mid designs, you'll either have like a window that you need to jump up into, or it's kind of all flat. I do like that you kind of walk up here, and then there's your A split option from, mid tower itself. On T approach to B, this is probably the most standard part of the map. You have this kind of B main area that's the timing is roughly this 50-50 fight right here, and then you've got plenty of space to set up executes, and vice versa for the CTs, plenty of options to throw counter utility into the B main area, and we'll talk about that later as well. So as far as T sides approaching the map, what is optimal? What does a normal round look like? Well, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, I do feel like the CT timings into mid, and therefore, and vice versa, the T timing into mid are very advantageous. So in theory, you've got an option to basically throw a smoke that lands into the tower area up here, and you've got very simple, easy to throw flashes, whether bouncing off this or off the higher mark, that will kind of land behind you as you run out. And any kind of CT attempts to control mid, you really need to, one, either place your Molotov really well, place a nade really well on top of that, maybe even two sets of utility, just to shut down this entry point, all while you're likely full blind by these flashes. It's very hard to contest that first choke point, and even if you do contest that first choke point, let's say you have a perfect Molotov double nade combo that kills and tags maybe the second guy, and you get maybe here, or, set up here, you still have the potential of one or two lurks from here, and also you just have the potential of the fact that the CT Molotov isn't very good right now in Counter-Strike as a whole, and they might just fully ignore it, and your Molotov, let's say you miss it a little bit, it lands here instead of here, and then you're not burning this close wall, or they tick for, I don't know, all of 5 damage. It's very hard for CTs to hold mid in my theory, and also in the tournament matches we played, both teams basically on their T side had mid control at whim. Really just comes down to, do you smoke this? Do you flash this? And even then, I think knowing all of this ahead of time, when we were playing the CT side on Canopy, we basically just had this guy up here as an initial ward for middle. Maybe you do some nade tag damage. Maybe you find somebody on one of these off angles as they try to approach B. But in general, the best thing to kind of do is this mid player. A lot of times I've found is kind of just play around denying the ARAP, and if they get up into mid, you can even just fall back to here, watch this cross, or just fall back into the A bomb site itself, watch this, and then fall back again and watch this. So I think mid in general is generally going to be T domain if they want it. And from that, kind of branching off what you do with that, if you have this area up here smoked in really any fashion, that's when your B splits can start to activate, and it's really not all that long of a path into B. This connector space is larger than your, you say your E box on a Nubix, so you can actually play inside. This is a decent angle. There was actually quite a bit of Zeus kills going on in the tournament from this angle when it was uncleared, but having this cubby built out, you can generally do a decent job clearing. Not all the way, but most of that corner. And then you have this connector, you basically are onto the B-bomb site, and if their B-bomb site defender is really not prepared for how fast your split is, or is kind of stuck in this corner as he's getting hit from both sides, it can be quite hard to defend once you have mid control. All right, now discussing kind of the B side of the map, both T and CT approaches. This is the area of the map that I think allows for the most, I guess, intuitive utility use. As a T side default player, I found that generally just throwing this flash every round is a good idea. It'll get this guy, if he's opping or if he's rifling, off this initial fight, and then you can kind of just hold the angle from there. Either you can play it as passively as you want, just hiding up here, or you can continue to jiggle it, or come down here and try to cover for any execute that your team is setting up behind you. All very viable options. As far as execute options, there's a lot of stuff you can do. Simple smokes from, just over this wall that'll land in CT spawn, something like this to get you out. Molotovs like this that will Molotov behind. I'd say this is maybe the most comfortable piece of cover on the bomb sites. Any kind of Molotov from there is viable as well. Before the changes, let's see how fast I can kind of get this. Yeah, okay, so it's not too difficult still. You can get Molotovs on top of this, which is a boost position and generally will spread behind the pillar. So I'd say a typical execute looks like, molly here, smoke here, molly behind here, and then you probably don't mind maybe a smoke in this area. Alternatively, you could try to get a smoke into this area, but I found it's a little bit difficult to get like a perfect smoke to land here, especially if you're trying to get a Molotov down in this B connector. It's quite difficult, but overall, I really enjoy how this B bomb site plays, especially after the update. I think it's much improved versus the previous layout that it had. On the kind of CT side of things, though, what my team has kind of found is that if you try to get a Molotov into B main like this early. Obviously, this is T side molly, but the CT molly does still spread the entire entrance. This is a good way to kind of get your B player an advantage in this initial fight, even if he's flashed like I kind of showed earlier. That Molotov will generally prevent any entry into the B main area, and from there, you can either have this same player throw a smoke, or once that molly's down, have your B main player walk up and smoke something like that. Is a good way to start the round as CT, and you can generally just have your B-side mid player throw the molly and then walk up here and play for this. Can sometimes be a little bit too much of a timing tax. If they're really fast in the mid, you have absolutely no prevent, but that's a very specific situation. All right, A side of the map. This is perhaps the region I've explored the least when it comes to CT side, and maybe a little bit more towards the T side. So one of the things our team found that was really, really helpful was the kind of nade molly combo. The first one here will blow open the door, and then the second molly there will go into the doorway, and basically this just forces the CT player to just not be able to contest this doorway early. Not only does it do that, it prevents them from playing close to the door, pushing the door. It also immediately, just every round, basically says, this door is blown open, and if we want to go 8 later in the round, we don't have to open it. We don't have to make that sound cue. It's very, very, very similar to your nuke squeaky door default on T-side. Pretty much every single T-side team for, I don't even know how long, it's been years and years now, just will nade the squeaky door to start every round on nuke. It's just an advantageous nade. The only disadvantage you can generally find is also very similar to nuke. Sometimes, because the door is open, CTs can lurk through, fast flank you mid, fast flank you B, and you're not ready for it. I'd say generally though the Molotov does a good job of stopping any early aggression there. And if you have anyone that's like, you know, the Molly's here, you just have a T side here, walk up, and then immediately kind of just take this space after the Molly goes away, or just check that, like, you know, they're not close. That's generally a pretty good way to prevent that. The long side of the map, this is, I think, pretty much the last thing that was changed layout-wise before the deadline hit. Both elements of the A-bomb site and long. Long used to kind of be this wrap that had a smaller choke point here that you could easily kind of smoke. And then it was more of this wrapping action here. Now that it's all kind of open, I found that this is more of a like less util, more brawly kind of area. I do not believe in my testing. I couldn't find a Molotov that the CTs could throw that would land there fast enough to prevent any long rushes. So I believe the Ts, if they want it, can get out long and play this real estate. That's when you need to play more, I guess, of a nuanced defense on the CT side, playing around, stopping the wrap, playing around, punishing jump ups. This is a semi-viable position. I think this is, you know, an intentional decision not to let this corner be too deep. But if you kind of crouch in this corner, generally you can catch them as they jump up. Or, you know, if you have a smoke that you're chain smoking this door with or this choke point with, you can play more towards this cutting off the jump up more safely from up here, or punishing them as they walk up and try to kill your teammate that's maybe playing more towards CT spawn. So in conclusion, as far as how this map plays out, I think it's a very, you know, mid-control heavy map, not necessarily because it's super important, although mid is important, more so just that Ts are very favored in mid. So if they're going to run a default, mid control is kind of a given in most cases. I think generally CT sides are going to want to play at minimum 2 towards A to start the round, and will often find themselves more towards 3A just because of how mid usually is given up. You have this mid player who's generally just a cheat A player. Towards B, I think because of how much bandwidth you have to spend towards the A-bomb site and towards middle, you oftentimes do want to make sure that you can cut off the initial B main push, keep this smoked, and keep your B player focused on just this smaller choke point rather than having them have to control all of this space or play from back here, at least early in the round. Later in the round, you can say, okay, we've got mid, or we've got some information towards A. We can maybe play more towards back B. We ran out of smokes B main. That's, you know, how the round, I think, will normally play out towards that side of the map. All right, Flick. Flick is another layout that, much like Canopy, feels very familiar to a Counter-Strike player. There is your mid split options to both A and B, your A main kind of staging area, your B main kind of staging area. But what I think really adds to this map's fun and uniqueness is the spaces really in between both B main in the bomb site and A main in the bomb site. Both of those are really, really strong areas, and I'll show you what I mean. A here, much like Canopy, has the kind of dual entrance to the A bomb site from just one long area where you can jump up from here up to there, as well as here up to here. Or you can wrap the long way around, don't have to do any acrobatics, and you can reach the bomb site like that. And then you walk over towards the B side of the map, you've got this kind of Western movie scene with a playable piano and this kind of saloon in between that connects to middle from B. Both of these areas are honestly really fun to play around. The B area really, especially after the CT timing updates they made following the tournament we played, can really add to some CT aggression towards this B area, and the map rewards you for that with this kind of fast wrap through saloon to middle if they are just kind of completely towards the A side of the map rather. There's also a really diverse set of play options towards A long as your kind of A anchor player. And this is very similar to Canopy, in which you can have these initial kind of long fights, try to push forward if you want to. That's when it gets difficult to actually hold that position, though. Or you can play around, maybe taking a fight here, maybe just saying, okay, I'm anchoring, I can't die, let me just play from here. And from this one spot, if they don't smoke you, you can see this initial cross and you can see the wrap cross. So this is a really strong angle for CTs to play if the Ts do not have utility to cover for it. Another very unique gameplay element towards the A side of the map is, I think this is pretty well documented, but these vents have smokable kind of elements through them using the new kind of dynamic volumetric elements of the smokes. So smoking through that vent is always a pretty solid option. Smoking here is always a pretty solid option, and it's just really fun to play this layout because of those reasons. Getting into the more tactical option side of things on this map, I discussed earlier about the kind of beat aggression you can have towards this side of the map, and generally what we found is some kind of early flashbang play where you're flashing and peeking around here with 1 or 2 people, maybe even 3, and aggressing towards B long is a pretty strong option for CTs. You do need to be careful though about any T that's pushing and gets under this balcony. It is kind of a natural anti-flash position for anything that lands like above there. You're just naturally anti-flash, and if you are a CT coming around this corner waiting for your flash to work on this guy, you'll have a pretty bad time. So that's one aggressive options towards B for the CTs. As far as this T side goes, I really like the nuances that the map makers have added. So like this step up here is not an accident. It purposely kind of gives you this elevation change as you're challenging this offer, which makes that shot a little bit harder to hit. There's also plenty of kind of very intuitive smoke options. So without even peeking, you can kind of just like throw a smoke off of the wall there to smoke off that entry point. And there's also plenty of resources for you to get smoke grenades through and into this B connector option. I'm sure there's smoke that can land there as well. But as far as like getting into the bomb site and getting a safe plant down without challenging this choke point, it's very possible to do. So those two are your kind of main smokes to get in the bomb site, and both are, especially this one, is very intuitive to throw without ever really peeking into the bomb site. Now moving on towards middle, I think the timing changes, and I believe this used to be wider, so things have changed a little bit since we played in the tournament, but I think the overall kind of idea for both sides remains the same. I really like the timing dynamics and the positioning dynamics that this mid offers. So as a CT side, the obvious kind of intuitive smoke is to get a smoke down here. The timing is such that like you can, I think it's like maybe like right here is when the T side would be getting to this initial mid peak. So if you should in theory have time to get the smoke down cross and challenge towards this deeper part of mid for this map control. And you can even maybe mix in some flash support from your second mid player if you've got one, to then come around this corner and fight anyone who's just like setting up on this side of middle for the T side. This side of middle is a pretty crucial area for T's to control. It allows for a very easy like A side middle smoke. If you kind of just aim at that lamp, it's positioned very conveniently above the door for you to aim at and kind of just smoke that area off. So challenging this area early as CT is definitely an option. Obviously, you're also opening yourself up to Saloon here, but in the same vein, you can also use this piece of map control to then control this part of B main and challenge towards that. So there's a lot of dynamism just in that already, but then there's also obviously this side of middle for T's that can then, after the smoke goes away, or even as it's up, to nade and try to pinch anyone who's pushing forward and trade your teammate that may have gotten pushed there. Once you have mid control as T's, there's a lot of options. We were pretty simple with this side. I was just throwing this smoke when we would take mid, and then we would kind of just split B with that. But there were also teams that we were playing against that would have smoke lineups specifically for this angle as well to make their mid to be even simpler than just smoking up there. All that said, for the mid to B part, I'd say mid to A is also very viable, and it's also maybe it won't be now that the timings have changed. I haven't played on the new timings, but mid to A was a very kind of sneaky rush option, especially if you notice your opponents are playing a lot towards B in the early stages of rounds. It's very simple if your opponents are not like ready for it to kind of just bounce a flash off here, come flying out mid with Tech 9s, and immediately just jump up here, and you sometimes will just have this one guy on the bomb site that is the A anchor, and the other mid guy is like trying to trade you out window after their mid guy got like forced back into here. So that's a really fun option for a strategy as well. All right, and then in terms of tactics towards just the purely A side of the map, I'm not sure I've got a whole lot to add here. I've already mentioned the kind of intuitive, I mean, there's literally an arrow up on this event saying, please smoke me, element of smoking this split here. I've also found that there's some value in throwing a smoke that lands towards the CT side. If both of these are smoked, and you have either killed the ARAP guy or forced him back here to then very just simply smoke or to just fight as you cross, this really makes the bomb site kind of just yours. To plant and play for the post plant, so that's super super strong. Obviously, there's a lot of kind of cool elements of planting, maybe like around this corner and then playing up on either just like this balcony right here to spot like if they're defusing, or to just jump up here and jiggle around here, stop the defuse once maybe they come and chase you, you fall off, and then you hear the tap again, jump up, make sure they're on it, and then jump up and finish the kill there. So there's a lot of unique gameplay elements of there. As far as the CT side goes, after the timing improvements, it should in theory be very possible to like get them all top down there, or to just like post on this initial choke point to make sure like any rush is stopped, and then you can maybe evaluate from there where you want to handle the rest of the push. Where to use your smoke grenade is a very interesting question that I'm not even sure I really have a great answer for. There's probably some value in smoking this part off and maybe playing around it lurk-wise, but you're giving those same lurk options to the Ts. You also still have to worry about this jump up. Smoking right here is definitely viable because it really just isolates your fight. If once you're on the bomb site to this side itself, they have to run through the smoke otherwise. But like Canopy, I don't really have a great flowchart utility for the CT side here. It's mostly just, I think, it's a true anchor spot where you need to play your life more than you need to play for a single kill, and your team will get a lot of value off of playing your life, playing for information, calling for rotates when needed, and I think it's a lot of fun. So to kind of wrap things up, I think one of the really cool aspects of this map is how little each bomb site requires in the early stages of rounds. A really just requires one anchor early to spot out an initial rush and call for rotates. Same really thing for B. Both of these bomb sites generally only have one super required choke point to play at, which allows for a lot of CT mix-ups, whether it's stacking towards B, stacking towards A, being aggressive mid. There's a lot of flexibility in how you can play out your CT sides, and I think that's really cool. Okay, so Golden. This is where we start to branch off into the more unique layouts, I'd say. One of those claims to uniqueness is this very, very fast and convenient and safe, generally, rotate option that the CT side has from A and B. This is it's hard to point to any other map that I can remember that it's still kind of a, it still feels like there's a mid separating both your A and your B bomb site, but there's still just this very fast rotate option, right? I mean, you've got your nukes, your overpasses that in general CT sides will have very, very fast rotate options, but generally there's no middle separating them. It's more so that the map is stacked on top of itself in some way. So that's very unique. Second unique part of it is kind of a middle area, but not really. It's this very, very long tunnel that connects the kind of beginning of what you'd call B main, I guess, over to the A bomb site itself, connecting both through this kind of A main staging area as well as this B main staging area. So those are very unique aspects of the map and the layout itself. So I have generally been starting towards the bomb site when I'm discussing the kind of how the map plays, but I think I'd be remiss if I started with anything but middle on this map, and not necessarily because it's super important for getting onto bomb sites, but it is very important from a kind of T-side default perspective. If this map ever plays out such that the CT sides can consistently hold bomb sites early and the rounds kind of have to mature on themselves, mid control will basically be the decider. And I say that because cutting off this rotate as just a default position or getting into this ladder at all is almost completely fatal to a CT's ability to defend the bomb site. While this is a very convenient rotate route, if the T's somehow find their way into here unwatched, I say unwatched because this is an absolutely freebie for anyone who's watching here, but you're allocating a player just to watch this ladder. Splitting onto the bomb site from there is almost trivial, right? I mean, you're behind almost all of the defense in both of these cases. If you have one or two guys down this ladder, or even just one down this ladder, you're splitting onto the bomb site from the more traditional methods, you're going to win that round most likely. And in the same way, if you get a guy up, just kind of chilling in mid here, maybe jiggling here, and then you start to hit the B bomb site, right? And then all of the A guys come rotating through this ladder, and you just get a free kill. The second guy's too afraid to walk forward. He can't rotate, and then you can just basically win the round from there, right? You can imagine many situations in which losing that ladder control is going to be very fatal for your chances to win the round. In terms of taking mid control as T side, I think there's a lot of options for you to go for. One of them, in kind of the most simple one that I found that I think is also very effective, is getting some kind of smoke down in that choke point there. This same player who threw that smoke can just kind of throw flashes over here that are probably you can find a very optimized lineup for. But the reason why I really like this smoke is AWPing from here is just really, really good and oppressive. This is a very convenient spot for really anyone to play. You can transfer between holding Palace. I'll call this Palace. It's upper. Reminds me of Palace Balcony from Mirage. But you can transition from holding mid like this to playing from here, as well as like any attempt to push into a mid, CT, anything like that. You can kind of just cut this off as well. Very easy to self-flash for yourself. This is a super strong angle is what I'm trying to get at. And smoking here forces this player to either fully commit over to this side of the middle, which in my opinion is noticeably worse, or to just basically give this initial mid-staging area. And then from there you can, mix in any kind of bounce Molotov you want to try to get that player flushed back even further. Just to kind of add on to my reasoning there, I think there are fights in Counter-Strike where as a T side you would honestly prefer that the CT side give you. You really don't mind if they do. And I think anyone playing here with probably anything but an AWP, but even an AWP, really is at a disadvantage majorly, not only because it's very easy to pre-aim this, but also because you can kind of double up on your peak here. It's also very easy to have flashbang support as well as you're doing this. So you kind of want them to be here because you can kill them. And then once you get out here, if you really need mid control from B side, you can, well, obviously you don't want to smoke it like that, but anything that bounces back far enough into that B connector, if anyone was playing very passively mid, you can then move up and not be smoked off like an idiot, and you can claim the ladder for yourself, either just to cut off rotates or to drop and split from there. As a CT side, however, mid is, as I've hopefully communicated successfully, very important. I think it's harder than ever. I think previous updates, this was both thinner and didn't have this multi-elevation option. I really haven't looked into the timings all that much, but I do believe that there's going to be a lot of value in just trying to contest mid at all. So maybe getting smokes down, having players to close anti-flash to try to catch anyone who's running out late, having AWPers starting either here or here, some kind of punish as they run out. There's a lot of natural anti-flash the farther you play back, so there's probably a lot of value in just running a guy out of spawn here, getting an AWP, and just posting to see if they run out wide when they take mid. It's definitely an important place to hold. You don't necessarily need this initial T-side area of it, but you basically just cannot afford to lose ladder. Maybe there's a world where the future is like T smoke this, CT say, okay, we'll match you with this smoke, and you just basically say, this is our Mason-Dixon line of middle. I'm holding ladder. You're holding this smoke run through, and then once these smokes go away, we have some kind of second phase fight. And any map in which a meta like that would develop, I think, is already really, really good, really, really fun. Moving on to the simpler of the two bomb sites, B. This is what I believe to be the kind of single-player anchor position bomb site. With a CT molly, it's not perfect because CT mollies suck, but it's still very viable to get a molly down before they get there from throwing it far enough back and then smoking on top of that. Any bomb site that you can do a molly smoke combo to completely shut down a T-side's approach without them going through your utility is generally going to be a bomb site you want to allocate only one person to start. There's also a lot of really cool, strong, I'd say, off-angle options to hold their initial B push for, so that you can get early information for rotates that are generally going to be very fast, as well as you also have the option, I should have mentioned this earlier, to molly this, wait, okay, they smoked it, then you just smoke this, and then you have this choke point to probably get one or two through if they force themselves through it. So definitely an anchor bomb site. A lot of interesting early options for utility, as well as I really like how the retakes, really on all of the bomb sites on this map, I really love the retakes on all of them. Get the two kind of, this reminds me of like Tuscan, but probably way safer to exit because you don't have to look in 4 different places as you come out. But I like how this is split up. This upper area is easily smoked, so if T's get this bomb site and still have utility, that's when it can be pretty hard to retake. But this kind of very long tunnel also serves as a pretty good rotate timing for anyone playing A. They can kind of just run up and then start to shift walk or like start to hard clear stuff around here, and then you have a B main flank, and those are always pretty strong on retakes. So, all right, moving on to the more complicated of the two bomb sites. A, this was a bomb site that I think was greatly enhanced by the kind of last minute update that was made to change a lot of the cover around upper and the kind of entrance to the A tunnel. I think that has made the bomb site much better, much cleaner to play. And just to kind of discuss how this bomb site generally plays out from the CT side, these timings are pretty good for Ts. So I think generally CTs either find themselves smoking just the choke point itself here, try to get a molly down on there, then smoke there. That's more aggressive, and I think can be challenged quite well by Ts that are committed to a rush. I think that's in general why this has been simplified a bit to kind of just get a smoke down to that entire area. Upper is an area that I think, if the timings haven't changed, you're probably meeting the T side around this initial swing. I don't think it's trivial for Ts to take control of this upper area, but it's not difficult. And I think Ts generally also want this piece of map control. So that's kind of how round starts work out. As far as T side options on the bomb site go, there are kind of various options in terms of trying to get smokes down. Kind of very obvious one is getting a smoke down on the double door, as well as any kind of smoke that goes down onto kind of the staircase itself. Both of these are kind of just a standard wall of smokes, I guess you could call it, that gives you pretty clean exits out upper, especially now that this wall separates upper completely from the tunnel and anyone playing down here. And cuts off pretty much every fast rotate that there is. There's also a lot of cool options from like Heaven Control here. Now that you can kind of just like get a flashbang down either below so that it won't flash you as you run out, just lands behind, or you can even like organize your flashbang such that it lands completely above Heaven like this, or even like bounces once off the grates like this to land right in front, and then like maybe change the flashbang to be more safe. And like I can already imagine plenty of like Tech 9 strategies where you've got one guy double smoking, one guy double flashing like that, and you've got what, a $1,000 in utility full pop onto a bomb site, where your only maybe real danger is anyone who's like fully anti-flash in this corner cutting you off as you jump out. That's a difficult fight. Somebody opping here that's maybe, I mean, you're blind from that. There's a lot of cool options with this new palace area that just did not exist before they made that change, and I think honestly has made this map one of my favorites, just because this, I think the A bomb site was maybe the weak link of Golden before and after the changes. It's just awesome to play. So in kind of an overall summary for the map, I think the CTs generally start 2 towards A, 2 towards middle, and 1 towards B, with maybe your pivot being your second middle player, with maybe a third A option to go aggressive here, or stay mid, go aggressive mid, try to get that control. And then on the T side, I think a lot of your defaults are trying to vie for this mid control if you want the round to kind of mature. In most cases, I think there's a lot of very strong execute options on this map, though. A has maybe 2 or 3 variations, probably, that somebody could cook up around like wall of smoking this side or wall of smoking this side. Trying to pop from lower mainly, trying to pop from upper maybe, mainly. There's a lot of variation there. And then even towards B, if you think that they're playing 1B and you can kind of just force your way through B main through some kind of early pop flash like that, there are plenty of ways that you can kind of easily smoke this staircase, by bouncing it fast off that wall from back there. And then from that point, just getting into the bomb site, trying to route one early to get here. This is maybe the most vital part of a B rush, is to get somebody close right here such that either here, I guess, or like maybe even through here to cut off this double pronged retake option to just make this one choke point. And then once you have that, just chain smoking up there and keeping this monitored is a very strong execute option as well. So, all right. So Grail. Grail is another one of those maps that has some traditional elements to it, but the layout might be a little bit more deceivingly complicated than it initially looks from what looks like from the top down, some kind of very clover-like design. But once you kind of dig into it, I think it's a little bit more complicated than that. Maybe not too much. I'd say maybe the most defining factor of this map, gameplay-wise, is middle. And I say that because it's very brawly. I think it requires a lot of CT attention in the early stages of rounds. And I think a lot of rounds are one and loss from middle. Now, Grail is one of the maps that we didn't get to play in tournament, unfortunately. But I think through 10 mans and through Mapcore hub gameplay, I've got a decent idea of what's important and how the map plays. So kind of just starting with middle, as I kind of mentioned, it is very brawly. So how I kind of view it is you've got one CT that needs to jump out and kind of claim this under the bridge area, punish anyone who's immediately jumping out here and kind of being a trade player for the door guy. The second player is coming out of the castle door and contesting this kind of staff door. This is a very, very brawly, kind of like nuke squeaky door timing, where like you can imagine this is like nitro on nuke and you're like coming out and you need to like contest this choke point, because if you don't contest the door choke point, you're either giving them this choke point, which is much worse for you as a CT, or, you know, even worse, they're just out and they're already splitting your A-bomb site, and you don't really want that. So that's kind of, I think, the second guy's role. And then I think third guy's role is more of maybe an op option, more of a door trade option, a very flexible option that if you needed him to be somewhere else, you could maybe start him B, you could maybe start him A, although I think that maybe is really not preferred. You could start him up on Rapunzel Tower. But just an early fight here to hold this angle to see if anyone's out early opping, trying to peek this guy and he overswings or something, or drops out, or maybe even just kind of like doing this and then, okay, that's clear, I'm holding this now so that my teammate can jump up or something. Just being your mid support player is kind of what I view this third guy as. Moving on towards kind of T-side approach to how to deal with middle. This is maybe where I have the least experience. I think because it's brawly, I don't know really if we'll know what's truly optimal until you have people playing this map very regularly in a competitive environment, which, I mean, unfortunately, Counter-Strike players don't really love to do. But this upper area, I think, is good because I think you do beat the CT timing pretty comfortably here to hold this, to make sure that no one's very kind of greedily killing your guys running out mid, both door and here. I think that's kind of your main role as this terrorist up here, is really not to jump down. It's to make sure that the CTs are not greeting, because this spot in general is very good for one thing when it's playing safe and it's holding this run out. But if it's playing aggressive, it's kind of insane at holding the door spot. Like if you try to go for a squeaky door play, anything earlier than like an immediate run out, and even if it is an immediate run out and this guy comes up here and it's just killing you, like this is impossible to win as a T side. But if you have even just one guy up here immediately punishing this swing, that's going to be really strong. And this guy's also pretty decent at taking these fights, not amazing, so punishing that as well is really strong. But getting out mid is not too difficult once you take the kind of long way around. It's really not hard at all to kind of just get like a shift walk, run, throw smoke onto the castle there. I had an upper lineup before these logs got changed, and now that the logs are changed, I think my lineup is gone forever. I'll try to find another one later, but there are ways to smoke this from spawn in pretty easy ways. And then once you have those two smokes down, your kind of main focus is just flushing out the water. There's also this split option from mid, as I said. Your main issue here, if you don't have this smoke, so this is the main reason to smoke upper, is to have this guy not have to worry about this angle as well as all the other angles they have to come out and deal with. So that's kind of how I would approach mid as a T-side default, is to smoke here, and then split from B side and split from A side and in multiple ways. I mean, you literally have 1, 2, 3, and 4 entrances to mid as a T side that mostly cannot be contested. There's an exception here that I'll mention later when we talk about B. One last contribution to the kind of mid-fight part of this map is the avenues that the T sides have for squeaky rushes. So if you kind of had your first timing, come out wide immediately, throw a nade, you're not going to take any nades damage or slowing effect, you'll have the door naded. So that's kind of step 1. Step 2 is you'll probably want like maybe your last timing or the designated flasher here to throw a smoke like that to make sure they can't shoot you from this angle as you run out the door. But at the same time, this guy, after he throws that smoke, can throw a flashbang kind of like this. So you kind of aim at like the cross of the T, and you kind of just like shift walk forward, something like that, or maybe even wider like this. The exact location is probably finicky and depends exactly on where your opponent is standing. Obviously, you don't want it bouncing off the house like that, but this is the idea. Pops right above the house. And with all of those combined, this is a pretty wicked, fast, squeaky rush play. Even this guy's getting half blind, and being half blind is all it takes to die sometimes when there's 5 Tech 9s running at you. So even like guys that are down here get full blind. Your opponents have to be very ready for this play to not get run over by it. Some things that you could add on that I haven't done all that much research for because it's just a Mapcore map is getting a smoke down here along that, probably with a spawn. You'd probably want a spawn lineup for that so you don't lose any time. But a smoke here plus a smoke here basically covers all of the area that they would maybe not be blind from, and then these guys that jump up on these stairs are going to be blind. Kill him, run down, kill the guy A, and that's a really good eco rush play. And now, talking about the B side of the map, this is the most isolated part of the map for sure. The rest of the map is kind of all very connected. You get through mid, okay, I'm on to B almost immediately. Okay, I'm through door and middle, I'm on to A almost immediately. A, while it is kind of a long wrap down here, if you don't, commit to any of those stairs, you're immediately into mid in 2 different ways. So making kind of this left turn all the way over B, once you get to a certain point, like here, you've got kind of a long route onto the B bomb site. Committing through B long is kind of an extra commitment, even if it's not a long run to like the bomb site in comparison to maybe other maps like Long Island Overpass, for example. The rotates from the CT mid players, especially this mid flex player or anyone who is playing door who immediately just jumps up back onto this bridge, are going to be so fast that it's really hard to beat them onto this bomb site if you kill the B anchor guy. So just going long in it itself is, I think, strategy that will... Your mileage is going to vary based on how fast your opponents are rotating from mid to B, which probably depends on how good they are. But regardless, I just say that to say that as a default, the Ts, I think, are mostly interested in this side of the map for the avenue of getting middle. Because there's this, very... Your only danger in getting mid from here is anyone who is early aggressive through mid to jump into this room, which I think will happen. And that's maybe one of the main jobs of this T upper player is to come out and contest anyone who's trying to get into that room from the bridge or from down here. It's one of their main jobs. And this window cross, which honestly, this is, like I said on Golden, this is one of those fights as a T you would love for the CT to be holding this angle. You can come out, easy pre-fire, boom, and then you just get a free kill, and their B-bomb site. Now, their mid players have to rotate back to B, and the map just opens up for you. But if you do both of those things, you're splitting through here, and that's, I think, the main function of this side of the map for the Ts on an average default round. That being said, my team, we didn't get to use this in tournament because we didn't play it, but getting a molly off this slanted wall and then nading on top of it is a really good way to stop the Ts from ever splitting early, and that allows for your first mid timing to jump up while he's being supported by this guy in that room and get up into here, and then you immediately not only have this B split cut off, either you can play here or you can just play in here and cut it off like this, but you also have a pretty fast avenue to figure out a lot of B information, right? Like if they're not in here or if you're like jiggling, you don't see them. Okay, I don't see anyone towards B main guys. Let's rotate the door player towards A, and our mid flex player just start playing door or start playing Rapunzel and watch door from there. there's a lot of good rotation information you can get off that. So I think as far as a CT default goes for your B anchor player, I think almost every round you want somebody throwing a molly and a nade, or if you think that they can contest your molly because you had a bad spawn, maybe you just molly then like nade like this, and then if they run through, they get naded. But in any case, holding this window is really important. And then once you throw that util, you can start to like, okay, I'm not getting rushed, so I'm just gonna chill. And then oh shoot, and like even if you throw a molly, throw a nade, and you jiggle this, and it's like oh shoot, I'm getting rushed, you can just smoke this, wait, contest the smoke, run through, or even just like immediately, oh shoot, I'm getting rushed, like underhanded smoke, jump through, and then just like run away and no, this is smoke. So there's a lot of immediate fallback options if you're getting rushed. So that's how I would play the B bomb sites and help your mid players as the B anchor. And then the A approach. This is maybe the most simple, boring part of a CT side on this map. I think, obviously, this is something you want to be smoking, probably not necessarily to start a round, but very quickly into the round. A rushing is definitely going to be a viable option. That being said, there's a lot of cool ways you can play this bomb site with the help of your door player, especially if you know that door is covered. So a lot of really good off angles to play as they run out to watch this wall and this approach as this kind of side anchor player to then immediately transition over here to help if they get out. But I think kind of your main goal as an A site defender is to make sure that you have your door player working with you. Okay, door's not open, they didn't nade it, so let me just watch this wall for you, you watch this wall for me, and then if they run out or they set execute, we've got a crossfire like that. As far as the rest of the CT options, there are some cool kind of wall bangs that you can set up from the barrels here that'll catch people just running up at you. You know what? I didn't catch that in the last update, but the wood and the concrete don't match up on either side. That's interesting. The wall bang still looks like it works just as good. That might be an oversight a bit, but I mean you can get the same kind of wall bangs from all the way over here if it's not. The idea still stands. As far as T-side approach to the bomb site goes, my smoke lineup used to be in that right up against there. So let's see how hard it is to get a new one here. Not hard. Pretty easy to get a smoke from here onto the CT part of the A-bomb site, and then a very kind of intuitive smoke that anyone can throw in any environment is just once you have this space here, just getting a smoke off of that wall is super strong. A lot like a cache, I guess, cross smoke, just bouncing off there, it cuts off all of their mid rotate support, and pretty good. Kind of isolates the anchor. So that's how I would approach the A-bomb side from T side. All right. So in summary, I think the CT side is generally going for a 1-3-1 setup in which you are brawling for mid, brawling for shop control, generally contesting door rushes, and then rotating onto the bomb side that you feel like you need to from there, leaving one guy to kind of basically be a Warden middle, one or two people. I think as far as the T side goes, I think you're almost just as interested in mid control as your opponents are in preventing it from you. Generally, these bomb sites are not that difficult to hold with 1 to 2 people if you were to exclusively approach from the main entrance. So mid control for that reason is very important. And like I said, going B, especially just from long, I think your mileage is going to vary significantly based on your opponent's skill level and knowledge of the map and how fast that they can rotate from mid. For that reason, I think mid control is also really good because it gets you onto B really fast. There is some really janky stuff that can happen with like a guy like playing here and then a guy I guess like playing here. Like this is really tough to get through if they've got multiple people. But otherwise, if you kill people taking mid, B is honestly sometimes easier just to go to from middle like that. But yeah, overall, very fun map. Okay, so Jura. Jura is another one of those maps that I think is very experimental, and I think it succeeds at still being very fun to play, very playable within that experimentation. I probably have a little bit of a soft spot for it in terms of just the layout in comparison to the rest, so maybe I'll sound a little bit biased in discussing this, but I'll try to keep it as much to a layout analysis as possible. So the main gimmick here, as I kind of ran through earlier, so I was talking, are these kind of 2 connectors. So this one connects from, I guess, what you would call middle through an kind of an underpass area directly onto the B bomb site. This other connector connects from the B bomb site to A. Both of these are within CT timing control to start the round. Obviously this back one, but also this one. And control of both of these connectors is, I think, kind of what dictates success for both teams. Especially the one I'm standing in right now. This is the one that gets fought for a lot. And I think a lot of the T side's defaults will be based off of the rest of the map. Has some really cool elements to it while still being more standard than those connectors. So this A long area looks pretty standard. What is really cool about it is kind of you have this kind of standard fight, standard long, it connects to the A-bomb side, but immediately as you jump up, you're already contesting and fighting all of this kind of mid area, which if either of these players are not ready for this fight, they'll just die instantly. So that's a really cool aspect of that long area, as well as it does kind of just like wrap up, jump up to trash can over into middle. I think that's really cool as well. The B main area and overall B as a whole is a little bit more experimental than A long, in that you can kind of just, if you want to, ignore the pathway to B itself and wrap spawn either to A or to this CT connector I mentioned earlier, to wrap B like this or to wrap A like this. A lot of options, and I think a lot of cool mid rounds develop on this map that you just don't see in most other maps. There are very few maps that kind of just like I think their layouts still work while allowing this kind of roaming around the map, and also it can still be optimal, right? To kind of ignore it. There are maps like I'll use Vertigo Mid for example because it was so simple that it's easy to kind of communicate. If you take Vertigo Mid, you really only ever should go B, because if you try to go A, you're contesting CT spawn. In this case on Jura, there is some value if you start the round and you're not defaulting, you take B main because you think, okay, they're only playing one B main, we can get this guy or we can get this guy to fall back, and then the map's going to open up for us like that. Because generally, you take map control. Okay, we take mid. Now the map is open for us. On Jura, you can basically just say, okay, we think this guy's playing stairs. We think this guy's playing really passive. Let's just take B. Okay, he goes down. Then we just wrap, and now we have access to their connector. Or we can go A, or even just taking B main control itself, forcing him down the stairs or forcing him back CT, forces so many rotates from the CT side to cover for that just creates a lot of interesting mid rounds. So getting more onto the tactical side of things, I think any round on Jura, if you want mid as T side, you can get it. If you haven't caught on by now, I think Canopy, Jura, Warden, I think, is a little bit less T-sided in middle than it was before, but there are a lot of maps I think in this contest that very much allow the T side to be in control of middle. So I mean, just as simple as a kind of just like smoke like this, you can get a flashbang. This is a pretty cute flash that goes over and through heaven over that box and flashes for your mid players to come out, and they're going to be over here so they won't be blind. As well as, much like Canopy, you can kind of just bounce flashes off of the entrance to mid and it'll line behind you and you can fight like this. The CT timing for this generally is like a little bit more favorable than Canopy, so you can get Molotovs, or if you start the round by bouncing your smoke off of kind of like if you're back here and you aim at the bottom part of this cardboard as you run up, like so, you can kind of just get a smoke down that lands quite fast. The problem with all of that is if the T side is really hell-bent on it, they generally can force their way into middle. Your timing to cross early here is like, this is the fight, so if you don't, like, the smoke will not bloom by the time you're trying to cross here, so if they're like one or two people holding you, you're just dead for free. And then once the round kind of starts to mature a bit, it becomes even harder to hold mid. You have convenient options like this to hold upper while your teammate can focus on lower. And then you can even have like this third guy helping with lower, and that can get you CT side mid control. That can be pretty hard to penetrate once they're out of utility, or if you've kind of stop their initial push. But I think in general, this this middle is more favorable towards the T side, and I think that's why a lot of times, I'll mention probably later, you want at least one, maybe two, sometimes CTs just playing this B connector. If your opponents are very flow charty towards, okay, we take mid control, okay, we split B. This is one of the strongest strategies on the map, is just smoke, flash spam, okay, we have middle, don't get killed by the guy on top of E-box, okay, we're B splitting, and This is really hard to hold for the CT sides on this B split. If you have one guy lurking up here to punish anyone who's late rotating in, even if you don't, you can win post plans just from like taking this control and planting like right here. So that is definitely one way to handle the map is just by getting this middle area without utility and splitting B. So I already kind of talked about the area a little bit in terms of its simplicity. I think most CT side rounds, involve smoking the doorway. Nothing shocking there. Holding this part of the map early on so that your mid players can focus on mid and not have to worry about getting wrapped at all. But there are some cool stuff that you can do as a T side towards the side of the map if you just wanted to isolate yourself towards A. Very simply there, you can throw a smoke that'll land in the CT connector entrance to the A bomb site. And then as well, you can get if you don't hit it off the tower, that is. Okay, no, it didn't. The preview was broken. You can get a smoke down in CT from there. And if you already have long control, getting a smoke onto the connector is kind of as simple as running up, aiming at the top left of that, getting a smoke down in the connector there, as well as, CT angles generally won't be holding you from here, so it's sometimes just safe to jiggle, then throw a CT smoke, and you can come up, and then you just need to kind of look at this tower that connects to middle, and that's kind of how we generally approach day. Moving towards the B side of the map, I think this is where it gets tactically a little bit more complicated, if you want it to be. There are a few ways that you can kind of get smokes down onto the staircase in the early round, something like so. That will smoke the staircase itself. This is useful for those kind of ignore the B anchor players' wrap CT strategies, or kill the B anchor and wrap CT strategies that I was mentioning earlier. Alternatively, from back there you can get a CT smoke down as well, but even just playing from this corner here, it's not too difficult to get CT smokes down from here, as well as some decent flashbangs by just kind of right and left click jump throwing from this spot that will blind most of the B player. So those are decent approaches to entering here. There's also some ways that you can kind of just like smoke maybe here to lurk smoke, but there's enough angles, whether it be this one or I don't think a lot of people actually know that like you can actually just play in this window actually and kind of play either this headshot angle or like just literally give the staircase and play for their CT wrap here, or wait for, okay, I hear them going on the stairs, now I swing and try to punish like that. This is a very cheeky angle. A lot of plays to play it like that. And as far as CT side goes for aggressive options, I think there's a lot of cool ways that you can get aggro too. One of them is kind of just by, okay, let me just bounce this smoke here, block off this secondary entrance here, have maybe myself throw one bounce flash and push. And if your teammates are with you on this play, you can also kind of add in some kind of maybe flashbang that pops in a way that like is perfectly going just enough past such that the majority of people walking up are not going to be, blocked by this. Like you have one flash bouncing landing here, and then you have the other flash landing up there, so that it's like perfectly blind. He swings, you maybe kill one or two. And if they're not here, what's really cool about this layout too that I haven't mentioned yet is if you push B, you can basically just use this upper pathway to immediately flank towards middle without ever having to like fully wrap the spawn. So that's another cool element of the layout that really rewards B aggression. As well as mid aggression. If you jump up here, you can do the same thing towards B. So, to kind of finalize my thoughts on the map, I think CT sides are generally starting one long, two mid, one con, or two con, one mid. Generally, some variation of three middle, with sometimes maybe you just put two middle and you have maybe a B aggro play happening. But in terms of like anchor requirements, I think you're like one anchor B, one anchor long, and then you kind of just do what you want with the other three players, with generally those three players being towards this middle area. As far as T sides go, like I mentioned, I don't think mid is trivial to take like I do on Canopy, but I do think it's very T favored, and also you benefit a lot by taking mid as the T side. So I think a lot of rounds will just be, okay, let's go mid. I think your kind of rush options are either, B fast plays where you're smoking here and just going down the stairs, or saving your smoke to smoke here to plant, and you're just rushing. I think there's also some decent A rush options through middle if your opponents are playing more towards this connector. Then you can, in theory, smoke this connector and just kind of ignore and go fast through like this, ignoring the long player. But yeah, I am really, really partial, I think, towards this layouts. I really think it creates a lot of interesting mid rounds, has a lot of options for both Ts and CTs, and is also experimental. So it doesn't take any shortcuts in terms of getting to the high level of playability it has. Okay, Palacio or Palacio. This is a layout that I really don't want to spend a whole lot of time on or be all that critical of, because I think much of this layout is kind of defined intentionally by the real world location. Um, and I think for that, it does have some cool parts, but I think it also suffers in terms of just Counter-Strike gameplay itself. What I do really like about this map, a few things. One, I really like this B-bomb site design. I think this plays out well. I think we don't really have enough of these kind of wrapping bomb sites that have like an interior aspect to them, an exterior aspect to them. I think that's really cool. I also really like this A kind of second mid connector that is not only it does help you take middle, but it's in large part I think defaulted for CTs and Ts for different reasons. Ts want to prevent CTs from pushing and flanking them fast A, and the CTs want to flank fast A and then prevent the Ts from splitting them middle. So I think this is really cool. The A side of the map, on the other hand, I don't really even know what to say tactically about it. This is a tough scene for anyone who is peeking this angle. Just in general, I think even if you have a world where you somehow get smokes over this very tall map to get maybe one here, yeah, and one here, you are still largely dealing with many levels of elevation, many angles. They can be up on the staircase, and then even if you're coming up, they can be in a lot of off angles back here. So we didn't play this map in tournaments. If we did, my general idea was, okay, to even handle like an A default, you need to be smoking this cross and then trying to basically flash over or flash through your way to fight this part of it, isolate this, and then once you have this, they're scared of you over here, flash, and then maybe you can then split from the angles that are basically death traps down here. I think if maybe you have this utility, the map would like play out a little bit better than what I feel like. If this like, I can already imagine like if this gets into like the competitive pool in the game, which I think it visually deserves to be like a competitive scrimmage map in the game. I can already imagine like you like a player playing this map for the first time, they swing into A, like there's like an AWP there and they're just like dead, and it's like, or like they swing, there's like 3 people lined up here. Obviously like it's impractical from a CT defense perspective to allocate that many people towards here, but you can already imagine like this handling this bomb site on the approaches is really difficult, not only to actually do, but to I think just like theory craft. So I don't really have much there. Towards B, you can do some pretty cool execs actually. Getting a smoke that bounces off and like lands in the doorway from this pot here, and then immediately kind of backing up and no, sorry, that was a walk. I meant to run, flashbang, aiming at this darker brick. This is a really solid flash for a lot of the bomb sites, surprisingly effective for like even this window player, as well as players that are down here will get caught by it. So in terms of the fun factor on this map, we probably would have been trying to run this in the tournament, but getting a one player to just throw that smoke and then double flash like this on your B rush sounds like a lot of fun. Generally, you don't actually need to cross this fast mid area to get to B all that much faster. The timings are really all that not that much different from running up mid and then through the scaffolding, rather than all the way down through this underpass. Some words, I guess, on the CT side. Like I said, I think there's a lot of value in pushing through here and pressuring towards A, as well as like getting across here makes it really hard for them to push through mid on you. There are some timings for CTs that I think feel pretty hard to contest at times. I think like basically like this fight is an angle that like the T's are kind of meeting you at, and they have a headshot advantage there. So I mean, I guess you can try to get like, this is too wide for a CT molly as well, and the timing's not good enough for you to do it. I think a lot of times like your CT B defense is like, okay, do I hear them? I do. Okay, I'm just gonna like molly or smoke this, and then like back up. So that feels like this feels like an anchor spot on this map, but it you don't really feel like you have an anchor advantage in terms of like being able to control that choke point all that effectively and still have time to get rotated in. I guess mid is so close that maybe that helps with that, but that's kind of how I feel towards B. And then towards A, I honestly, once again, like even as like a CT side, I mean, I would assume in large part you kind of just want ops up here or some kind of long range weaponry, and then you have maybe one guy drop down and play through here. Like I said, I don't want to spend a whole lot of time here, not only because I didn't play the map in a competitive setting, just in the Mapcore casual setting, but also because I didn't put a whole lot of thought into the theory, just because I don't know how much is there. That being said, beautiful map. One last thing, if you need a smoke for the mid door, grappling hook plus this corner plus W jump throw will get you a decent smoke to contest this door. This is quite useful if you're running up and trying to contest mid. This is a really hard op angle to deal with and also to flash. So this will help your T sides feel less oppressive when you're trying to take back control. Right, Stronghold. I'll start by saying it is absolutely insane that a Counter-Strike map can just look like it's actually just on a mountain. That is insane. But what I actually am here to talk about is the layout, which I think is the most complicated in this contest by far. And for that reason, I'm basically just going to be able to give some speculation on how the map plays, how we thought about the map, instead of one of those maps that we didn't really get to play in the tournament itself. But we had some ideas coming in and how we thought the map needed to play. So just an overview. There is this kind of long, sprawling B route up onto the B bomb site itself, which is also large and sprawling. There really, I don't think, is not all that much utility that you wants or can throw from spawn. I had a smoke that would land in this window. That would obviously prevent some really cheap and easy kills for the CT, just kind of holding across here or holding this. And then in theory, you can get a molly out and get a molly onto this corner to clear that corner, and then for you to actually like clear that door and crawl. This door is one of those angles, like I mentioned earlier, that I think you want the CTs to be on. You kind of want this fight, generally, unless they're opping. But I don't think most oppers will be playing in this doorway on this map. So that's that side of the map. B does have some connection through this main area up into this door. This door is another area that I think the CT side wants to allocate somebody to watch. This door wraps onto the B-bomb site through that door I was just talking about, and also wraps onto middle through a generally CT entrance. So that's where that goes. To get to said middle from the T side, you have two options. One of them is to go up on this left way and then walk through this door up onto middle itself, or I think this is slightly slower and mainly made for fast rotates from B main. You can go up this ladder and then it will connect you to middle as well. Lastly, you have this A approach, one arch here, and then there is the staircase that goes up to a second smaller arch. CTs can jump up into here and contest. The timing, I think, is pretty much like this is a fight, and then the archway itself is kind of a initial like option fight. But this is, you know, one of those areas that you're not really all that close to your bomb site. The bomb site is all the way back here. So choosing where you want to stand your ground or where you want to make initial contact is one of the complicated aspects of the complicated map that we're on. So as far as the B side of the map goes, I think there are certain CT defense options that will make it pretty hard to rush the B bomb site. One of them is, you know, being able to molly the B main entrance in various effective ways. There's probably a better lineup there, but you can get this down by generally like 11, 12, 13 seconds, which is right when they'll be running through here. And then you can have your second timing, run around, exit this, and get to this door right at about 11 or 12 seconds as well. So as that molly's thrown, your second player can jump out the window, basically come down into these corridors. You have two people immediately able to absorb their rush, which is going to be through a molly or through a smoke if they smoke it, and you've got that initial beat rush held. From there, this bomb, I don't even know where to start with, like what angles are good, where to play. I think I would literally have to be playing that map. I'd have to play Stronghold a lot to get to that kind of level of expertise, and like I said, we didn't even get to play it in the tournament itself. So So, as far as middle goes, there's obviously not, I think, a whole lot in the way of utility, as it's completely indoors. There's probably worlds where you can, like, just kind of, like, without peeking, get a smoke into window like this. You might be exposing yourself to the stairs if you do that. That being said, window is really only one part of this multi-three-way middle here, with cubbies for you to clear on both sides, as well as the staircase with at least a couple of off angles. The window is so committed. I think you really will only find initial op fights going on in there, and maybe that's worth throwing that smoke for, maybe it's not. I think the main PC utility that's going to be used in middle is Molotovs and smokes from the CT side. This route from spawn gets you the fastest and best angle to kind of just get this molly down before the T's get there, and then you can smoke after. Or instead of molly, you can kind of just like do this and not bounce it backwards like that, but bounce it forwards like this to get a smoke down on middle. And just having a smoke on this mid is pretty much it's pretty much a wall, especially if you have a window guy. The smoke completely stretches the entire way, and you can just kind of bounce to re-smoke after that smoke is gone as this window player. So mid, while it's important for sure, I don't know how viable it will be for the T side to contest this part of the map in the early stages of the rounds if the CTs are competent with their utility. And then finally, the A side of the map. I think this is definitely the area of the map that lends itself towards the offers of the world. There are probably, this initial fight, then immediately I'm going to back up and, I don't know, play from here, and then I can completely reverse and play the A-bomb site from, wherever I really want to. Like, you can definitely get back to this timing in time, and then, like, if they take there, then you can just play here safely. A lot of options for oppers. And also a lot of options for your more anchor style players as well. If you want to play it more as okay, I get to here and I jiggle, okay, they're here, I'm going to smoke and then back up to here. Did they rush through my smoke? No. Okay, then I'm good to fall farther back even than that. And then I jiggle from back here. Oh shoot, they jumped through this arch, or I see them pushing the smoke. I fall back to the A-bomb site, and I watch this upper push while my teammates are rotating in from mid, and I've gotten all the information I need. And because I saw 2 or 3, towards this very committed part of the map towards A, that's going to be a very long rotate, then we can get them into a spot where we're going to win the round off my life and my info. I think that's what this map what this part of the map lends itself to, and also what the map itself will kind of be. I mean, just you can imagine, okay, we defaulted towards A, and we think that they have too much information, or we need to rotate back to B. Okay, I got to start my route now, and my fastest way to B is probably through this tunnel, maybe even up this ladder through middle. If we've got mid control, even then, I'm still running just to get to here, and now I'm still not to B. I'm just now to B. So I don't think that's necessarily like a bad thing. It's just part of the map that it's just part of the map. That's probably just the way to put it. If you like very defaulty, very large maps, I guess like your overpasses, this is definitely for you. I think ultimately, I do think that the routing is very well thought out, and I would love to play this map in an organized fashion. It wasn't that popular in the tournament, I guess moderately unsurprisingly, but I do look forward to hopefully playing this in competitive, or and by competitive I mean competitive scrimmage in the Valve rotation one day, or getting to play in some kind of future Mapcore tournament as well. Just some last utility commentary bits. If you want the upper smoke for B, slide yourself there. Aim a little bit above this spike in the clouds, like such. Kind of just like shift walk and throw it. That'll land up in this heaven area, and completely spread to cover all of the relevant angles. All right, Warden. So this is going to be the last one I'll cover. And this one, I think it's kind of main kind of cool aspects and kind of unique aspects are how much kind of intermediary map control there is in between the bomb site itself and the route to and from the bomb sites. Both A and B have at least a couple of kind of areas that the CTs can viably contest and fight for before you can even get to the bomb site. So B has this kind of tree outside area, as well as this kind of connector through middle that is kind of an important landmark in itself. They've got this kind of kitchen area that then leads to the B bomb site. Same thing towards A. They've got the kind of arch area here. I don't, maybe ticket, or I don't know what you'd call this area, but they've got this here, this secondary area past this initial 2 choke points, and also showers, which is on the way from mid into the A bomb site itself as well. So there's a lot of nuance with which you have to default as a T side to not be caught off guard by a variety of CT trap setups on the way there. The other kind of, I'd say, main unique aspect of the map is its middle. It's kind of just twofold, but still all connected in like this U-shaped situation in which there is, no way for the CTs to connect to each other from the U unless they push through this highly contested area. So you kind of have to, as your mid defense setup, have mid players on multiple sides of mid that are working together to contest both of these choke points. So that creates a lot of brawling if you want it. There have been some changes made to mid itself and how the T's can approach, especially this side, that have been made sense. We played in the tournament. When we had played in the tournament, both teams were pretty much just shaking hands to give mid to the T side early on, and if they weren't, they were generally dying. My teammate literally just went to this red door and killed like 1 or 2 people every single time that they contested. That being said, they also added this cubby, I believe, sense, which should in theory really help the CTs prevent red door from being a massive problem, because you can get a guy on this more forward angle without being exposed to this very large choke point. So that is where the kind of uniqueness lies in this map. I'll start by talking about the B side of the map, and there are a few pieces of kind of commentary I have about how to defend the bomb site, how to attack the bomb site. I'll start with attack. This is the bomb site that I think has the strongest execute potential, especially with pops considered, for a few reasons. One, A has, I think, just a tad bit more potential for CTs to kind of see you coming, and setting up an execute towards A is, I don't think, as potent as towards B, and I'll kind of explain why here. So you kind of just walk up here, aim there, pretty easy CT smoke, and then if you jump up onto this ledge, aim at pretty much the same spots, it's a perfect flashbang that just goes right through that window and will go far enough such that it will blind anyone who's trying to contest this angle as well. So just that, those pieces of utility are really strong. Obviously, you need kitchen control for those to actually be kind of capitalized on timing-wise. There's also some potential to try to smoke once you have kitchen control from here. The flashes don't do their job, and this choke point's just too big for one smoke generally to cover, and there's no sky boxes over here for you to get this smoke in. So generally, we've just kind of relied on that smoke plus those flashes to get in. But there's a lot of kind of cool, interesting approach options. As a T, you can jump up on this box if you know that this is safe, or fight that before you do. Also, wrap onto the bomb site from here, and in the same vein, CTs can jump up here and play defense from here, which makes it a good transition to kind of switch and talk about the CT side of the defense. And that is that I think this is kind of a one-person information kind of situation where you have one guy. I was the B player on my team. I would pretty much just jiggle this angle, and if I saw one at that point, then I'm either calling for rotates or I'm expending a smoke either like right here. This is kind of a semi-choke point, or just smoking kitchen itself and falling back, and trying to stall as much time out of the clock as possible, such that if they do commit into kitchen, we can then get the rotates in time. There's some cute stuff that might be possible that I haven't looked all that much into. One is getting a nade timing that's really solid through that window, just as your default player. This will, in theory, just completely, like, they'll just eat it. So that should be, in theory, pretty strong if you could get that timing done as the B anchor. I think there is maybe some potential for aggro B plays. I don't think it's possible to get a molly, but maybe it is. Down onto the entrance. There's definitely a possibility to get a smoke down, so you can get it here, I guess. Maybe it's possible, but you can definitely get a smoke here and then flash through these same windows and then maybe run 2 people. Okay, we have control of this, and then your B player is playing like from this choke point, smoking that, or maybe even playing around this area back here. There's some Q stuff that's possible, but as of right now, I see this kind of as a one person play for info. Okay, they're there. I smoke, I molly, or I call for help. From this guy to choke point here, this guy plays this angle. Okay, he saw one, then I'm swinging out here. That's kind of how I see the B side of the map. One last tip. Don't forget to clear this. You will lose rounds as a T if you just ignore this angle, you start the plant, and you just get shot in the back of the head. So, clear that. Working towards A, I think this is pretty similar to B at times. You as your A anchor player, kind of want to get information early and safely, such that you can play out the rest of the round knowing what you know. This is kind of your, I think, kind of timing choke point. They can get to this cover as you're kind of playing around this. So I think kind of early on, like jiggling here, opping here, then, oh, I saw one, I'm going to smoke this and fall back, or I'm going to wait, fall back, then smoke it, play around here now, maybe play around up here, jiggle this. Okay, I saw them again. I'm falling back to the bomb site, calling for help for my mid/showers players, such that they're holding this cross maybe now. Yeah, I think that's kind of your game plan as the A player. I don't really have any clever utility tricks. What I will say is that as a T side approaching this area, sometimes it can just feel like there's a severe lack of corners to line up smokes in on kind of newer maps, but plenty of easy ways to get smokes down onto CT spawn there, as well as there are some ways to get smokes down on kind of key parts of the CT rotate spots from this is CT spawn itself, and then this is kind of like the back wrap of CT spawn. I don't know, probably a good way to maybe teller is what you'll call this or something. I don't know, but I think that's kind of what an execute looks like generally. But you do always have to be careful of one thing, and that is if you start to run up, you go up A long and you take the bomb site. You can be flanked really, really, really fast if you're not ready for a mid player to wrap around showers and kind of just immediately get to this box right here on this jump. So definitely be careful about this fast wrap if you are not in control of showers as you take A. And then towards mid, I don't have a whole lot of what I would consider expertise as to how this is optimally played. Like I said, we kind of waved the white flag on the old layout in terms of trying to hold mid SCT, even in the early stages. Door especially felt really hard to hold, and when this box, I think this box used to basically be up on this wall, so you could clear more of middle. I could be wrong, but I think you could clear more of middle before from on top of this box, so it felt pretty hard to hold. I think maybe now you can maybe like get a smoke down here. And get to a point where you're like all kind of focusing on door, or at least 2 or 3 are focusing on door as they run out. One very easy to fall into trap as a CT side is like, oh, I'm going to hold this window, right, and just try to kill them, which it seems good at first, but there's a lot of ways that this can go wrong. One is they just open the door and they're just on you in a pretty bad spot for you, especially if like they've got some kind of element from this side of the middle area that throws a smoke that cuts mid in half. This is something I think is a little bit unexplored in the games that I play, but if you throw that smoke as a T side and you kind of just run through doors, and if they only have 1 or 2 people here, I think it's really hard for them to hold this area, especially like, well, you don't even necessarily need to throw this, but like even just like throwing a flash on your back here, I think there's glass there, so it'll fall like more towards right here, that kind of pop in the same spot. So it's very easy to get overwhelmed as the CT side is what I'm trying to say in middle. Even with 3 people, it feels like sometimes you just get steamrolled in mid against T's. On the older layouts, maybe it's different with this cubby, maybe it's different with the slight changes and adjustments. But that's how we kind of viewed middle, is generally like this is your good off spots to pick and then fall back. You definitely want somebody, I think, playing around this cracked wall in the early stages of the round. It's just too strong to give up. But we were oftentimes giving mid, playing for this choke point, and playing for showers control, basically, this choke point. So But yeah, in summary, I think as a CT side, you want an A anchor, you want a B anchor, and then oftentimes I think you do want to allocate three people towards mid in some way in the early stages of the round. As the T side, I think you also want to be battling for mid quite heavily, just because there's so many opportunities for you to get spotted and killed and trapped on your way to the bomb sites when you're not using middle. If you don't use mid, you have to go through this choke point, this choke point, this choke point, this choke point, and also a pretty large bomb site for you to clear out. Same thing towards B. Your first angle to die at is this one here, and then you're kind of always like trying to split between here and here, and then there's this whole piece of map control here, as well as now you're on the bomb site. And through that whole time that you were defaulting and making all that noise, they can be rotating towards you. And if you don't have mid control, it's a fast rotate. So yeah, I think that's kind of how the map plays out. So those were my thoughts on the 8 diffuse maps in the Big Adventures contests. I think pretty much every diffuse map was either a well executed experimental layout or a well executed more traditional layout and everything in between. I think really the only map that would feel truly maybe out of place in the like a regular Valve 7 map pool would be Palacio. But other than that, I think every other map would fit well, play well, and I think would certainly be better day one additions than both Vertigo and Ancient were on their launch. So great work really to all the mappers, and I'm looking forward to see which maps make it into the competitive scrim rotation, which maps win the contest, and I don't know, maybe one of these maps will have the same fate as Anubis one day and make it into the 7 map pool.